What could drive a 9-year-old princess to speak out during a tense royal gathering, leaving everyone in stunned silence? In a family bound by tradition and secrecy, Princess Charlotte's unexpected words revealed cracks in the polished exterior of the British monarchy. From early moments of quiet observation to the day her final warning shocked the room, Charlotte's instincts and courage have set her apart. Her story isn't just about innocence. It's a glimpse into the unspoken tensions shaping one of the world's most famous families. What exactly did Charlotte say that no one saw coming? How did a young girl's intuition pierce through years of royal restraint? And could her bold warning forever change how the monarchy handles its internal conflicts? Let's dive into details. It was May 2018, a momentous occasion for the royal family and for Britain itself. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's wedding was hailed as a modern fairy tale, a biracial American actress joining the royal fold, bringing with her a promise of diversity and fresh energy. The chapel at Windsor Castle was adorned with flowers, the media's cameras poised, and the world waited for the procession of bridesmaids, one of whom was the pint-sized Princess Charlotte. But behind the ornate doors, the atmosphere wasn't entirely harmonious. Reports later emerged of a clash between Meghan and Kate Middleton over the bridesmaids' dresses. Meghan, known for her exacting standards from her Hollywood days, had envisioned a sleek couture look for the young girls. Kate, balancing royal traditions with her role as a mother, defended the original designs as timeless and elegant. The disagreement allegedly turned emotional, with tensions flaring during a fitting. Charlotte, just 3 years old, was present during these heated exchanges, too young to fully comprehend the weight of the moment, but not immune to the emotions in the room. On the wedding day, Charlotte's normally vibrant personality seemed subdued. Photographs showed her looking downcast, her usual spark dimmed. It was a detail that might have gone unnoticed if not for the stories that surfaced later. Observers speculated that she may have sensed the tension between her mother and Meghan, her first glimpse of the emotional undercurrents that would shape her understanding of family dynamics. In the months following the wedding, the tension didn't dissipate. Meghan's transition into the royal family was anything but smooth. Her marriage to Harry brought undeniable charm to the monarchy, but it also introduced friction. Stories of clashes between Meghan and palace staff, disagreements over protocol, and her perceived assertiveness often dominated headlines. These stories weren't lost on those within the family, least of all Charlotte, who even at a young age was growing increasingly aware of the atmosphere around her. By 2019, during public appearances, Charlotte began to display a quiet vigilance. At Trooping the Color that year, she was seen holding tightly to Kate's hand, her eyes scanning the crowds and occasionally glancing toward Meghan. While the world saw a child enjoying the pomp and pageantry, insiders noted her observant nature. It was as though she was piecing together the puzzle of her family's dynamics. The simmering tension escalated in early 2020 when Harry and Meghan announced their decision to step back as senior royals. Dubbed Megxit by the media, it sent shockwaves through the monarchy. For a family that prided itself on continuity and tradition, this was a seismic shift. Official statements attempted to frame the decision as mutual and respectful, but behind closed doors, the feelings were less controlled. Charlotte, now 4 years old, observed her parents navigating a period of uncertainty. While her understanding of the intricacies was limited, her instinct to stay close to Kate during public outings became more pronounced. During the Commonwealth Day service in March 2020, the family reunited for what would be one of Meghan and Harry's last official engagements. The atmosphere was frosty. Charlotte wasn't present, but the media coverage of the event and the visible strain among the adults left an impression on the family, including the young princess. Conversations at home weren't just about royal duties. They included navigating the interpersonal challenges of being a Windsor. As Charlotte grew older, her ability to read emotional cues became more apparent. Family gatherings, particularly those involving Meghan and Harry, were seldom without moments of unease. Charlotte's protective instincts toward Kate became clearer during these occasions. Whether through a quiet glance or staying physically close to her mother, her gestures reflected an awareness that belied her age. By the time Charlotte turned 6, she had already developed a reputation within the family for her keen intuition. Observers within the palace noted how she would often pick up on the subtle tensions that many adults missed. This wasn't a trait cultivated through formal education or experience, it was an inherent quality that seemed to grow stronger with each passing year. At this point, her relationship with Meghan was cordial but distant. Meghan's natural charm often lit up the room, but Charlotte's wariness didn't go unnoticed. Family insiders described moments during gatherings where Charlotte would carefully watch Meghan's interactions with others, particularly Kate. It wasn't mistrust, but a quiet caution, as though Charlotte was attuned to an unspoken energy that rippled through the room. The year 2021 brought both joy and sorrow. Prince Philip's passing in April marked a solemn chapter for the royal family. The funeral was a moment of collective grief, but it also reignited public and private scrutiny of the family's dynamics. Charlotte, attending the event, stayed close to Kate throughout. Her solemn demeanor and occasional glances upward toward her mother spoke volumes. The little girl who once shyly waved at crowds had begun to exhibit a depth of emotional understanding rarely seen in someone her age. The moments that shaped her in those early years were the foundation of what would become her defining trait, a quiet, perceptive protector of her family's unity. Though she was still young, her actions hinted at an awareness far beyond her years. And this was only the beginning. The decision by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to step back as senior royals in early 2020 sent ripples through the royal family. The move, widely referred to as Megxit, marked a pivotal moment not just for the monarchy, but also for the family dynamics that Princess Charlotte was quietly observing. Though she was only 4 years old at the time, her proximity to the unfolding events allowed her to absorb much more than anyone might have expected. The announcement came with a carefully crafted public statement, but behind the scenes, emotions were running high. Tensions between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family had been simmering long before their departure. Harry and Meghan's growing frustration with the constraints of royal life, coupled with mounting public scrutiny, created a widening gap. For Charlotte, these changes meant subtle shifts at home. Conversations became more serious. Her parents wore expressions that were harder to read, and family gatherings seemed to carry a quiet tension. One of the first public moments that highlighted the growing divide occurred during the Commonwealth Day service in March 2020. This event, typically a display of unity, was starkly different that year. Harry and Meghan attended, knowing it would be one of their final official engagements as working royals. The seating arrangements alone sparked controversy, with the couple noticeably placed apart from Prince William and Kate Middleton. Although Charlotte wasn't present at the event, the atmosphere and media coverage of the strained interactions undoubtedly made their way into the family's private discussions. At home, Charlotte's young mind was absorbing the dynamics between her parents and the Sussexes. Her intuition was beginning to take shape, as she observed Kate's quiet resilience in the face of increasing pressure. Family insiders later noted how Charlotte's closeness to her mother seemed to intensify during this period. Whether it was a simple gesture of holding Kate's hand more tightly or staying physically close during outings, Charlotte's behavior subtly hinted at her growing awareness of the emotional undertones within her family. The pandemic that followed brought its own challenges, isolating the royal family from many of their public duties and regular routines. While public appearances were limited, private moments within the family became all the more significant. Charlotte's relationship with her siblings, George and Louis, flourished during this time, but her bond with Kate stood out as particularly strong. Palace aides would later describe how Charlotte's protectiveness over her mother grew more pronounced even in the simplest of interactions. By the time Prince Philip passed away in April 2021, Charlotte had matured significantly. The family gathered for his funeral at Windsor Castle, an event marked by solemnity and restraint. Charlotte, attending alongside her parents, displayed a composure beyond her years. Observers noted how she stayed close to Kate, offering quiet support with her presence. While the adults engaged in formalities, Charlotte's gaze often shifted toward her mother, as though ensuring she was okay amidst the heavy atmosphere. It was during this period that Charlotte began to develop a reputation within the family as a perceptive and emotionally intelligent child. Her ability to read the room, even in emotionally charged situations, became evident to those around her. While some might attribute these qualities to her upbringing in the public eye, others within the royal household believed they were innate. a natural gift for understanding people and their emotions. The strain within the family became more palpable during the Platinum Jubilee celebrations in mid-2022. The event, meant to honor Queen Elizabeth II's historic reign, brought together senior members of the royal family, including Harry and Meghan. While the festivities were outwardly cheerful, the underlying tension was impossible to ignore. Charlotte, now 7, was particularly attentive during these public appearances. On the Buckingham Palace balcony, her expressions alternated between quiet observation and what some described as nervous glances toward her parents and Meghan. Those close to the family noted Charlotte's unusual calmness during these moments, while other children might have been distracted by the excitement of the celebrations. Charlotte seemed to be tuned into the dynamics around her. She held Kate's hand with an unusual firmness, a small but telling gesture that reflected her instinct to offer comfort amidst the unspoken tension. Behind closed doors, family gatherings during the Jubilee were reportedly tense. Harry and Meghan's brief return to the UK brought with it unresolved conflicts and a palpable sense of distance from the rest of the family. Charlotte's watchfulness during these private moments didn't go unnoticed. She often stayed close to Kate, quietly observing conversations and interactions. Her ability to sense unease became one of her defining traits, and her protectiveness toward her mother became even more evident. By the end of 2022, the royal family faced another major loss with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. For Charlotte, the Queen had been more than just a great-grandmother. She was a mentor in her own quiet way. Their bond had been nurtured during private visits and family gatherings, where the Queen often shared stories and lessons about royal life. These moments left a lasting impression on Charlotte, shaping her understanding of duty and responsibility. At the Queen's funeral, Charlotte's maturity was once again on display. Walking alongside her brother George and her parents, she carried herself with a composure that belied her young age. Her quiet gestures of support for Kate, such as reaching for her hand during emotional moments, resonated with those watching. It was clear that Charlotte was not just a passive participant in these events, but an active source of comfort and stability within her family. As the family began to navigate life without the Queen, Charlotte's role continued to evolve. Her natural intuition and emotional awareness positioned her as a quiet yet significant figure in the family's efforts to maintain unity. The events of these years, from Harry and Meghan's departure to the Queen's passing, were pivotal in shaping Charlotte's understanding of her place within the monarchy. Through it all, Charlotte's ability to read between the lines and offer silent support set her apart. She was no longer just a child watching from the sidelines. She was becoming an integral part of her family's story, offering a quiet strength that hinted at her future role within the royal fold. The passing of Queen Elizabeth II in September 2022 was a transformative moment for the royal family, marking the end of an era. For Princess Charlotte, the loss of her great-grandmother was deeply personal. Their bond had been one of quiet mentorship, where shared moments transcended age and status. During her visits to the Queen, Charlotte absorbed more than just family stories or royal traditions. She learned the importance of composure, duty, and a strong sense of identity. Charlotte often sat attentively as the Queen shared anecdotes from her reign, weaving lessons into tales of history and resilience. These moments were precious, not just for their content, but for the atmosphere they created, a rare closeness between generations in a family bound by formality. Charlotte seemed to understand, even at her young age, that these lessons were not ordinary. Her occasional questions showed a curious and thoughtful mind, qualities that the Queen took care to nurture. As the family gathered to mourn, Charlotte's maturity shone once again. Dressed in somber attire, she accompanied her brother George and their parents during the Queen's state funeral. While her peers might have struggled with the solemnity of the occasion, Charlotte remained composed, her young face reflecting both grief and resolve. Observers noted the way she frequently glanced at her mother, as though silently checking in. This quiet protectiveness was not new, but on this stage, it was all the more striking. For Charlotte, the Queen's passing was not just the loss of a beloved family member, but the end of a unique source of guidance. The lessons imparted to her during their time together carried forward in the days, weeks, and months that followed. Charlotte's growing understanding of her family's role in British society added weight to her actions and words, even those unspoken. family dynamics shifted after the Queen's death. King Charles III ascended the throne, ushering in a new chapter for the monarchy. This transition came with challenges, particularly in addressing the lingering tensions between Harry and Meghan and the rest of the royal family. Private discussions were held to navigate the future, not just for the senior royals, but for the next generation as well. Charlotte, as the middle child of the future king, found herself uniquely positioned, close enough to the crown to be significant, yet far enough removed to observe without immediate pressure. The Platinum Jubilee earlier that year had been a precursor to these changes. Although the celebrations had been ostensibly joyful, the undertones of tension had not escaped Charlotte. During the gatherings that marked the event, she had displayed an almost uncanny ability to sense unease. Palace staff recounted moments when Charlotte, standing beside her mother, would subtly move closer whenever a conversation turned heated or uncomfortable. Her actions, though small, spoke of an acute awareness that belied her age. These instincts became even more evident during smaller family occasions. While most children her age might have been oblivious to the complexities of adult relationships, Charlotte seemed attuned to every nuance. Her eyes often darted between speakers, her expression carefully neutral yet watchful. Whether it was a lingering glance toward her mother or a slight tilt of her head as she listened, Charlotte had a way of making her presence felt without drawing attention to herself. Her growing awareness was not limited to family gatherings. Public appearances also offered glimpses of her increasing maturity. At Christmas service later in 2022, she walked confidently alongside her parents, her posture mirroring the poise of Kate Middleton. When she reached out to steady her younger brother Louis, it was a small but telling gesture of responsibility. This instinct to protect and guide those around her was becoming one of her defining traits. By early 2023, Charlotte had quietly established herself as a source of stability within the family. Her relationship with her mother remained a cornerstone of this dynamic, strengthened by the shared experiences of navigating public life. Kate, often praised for her grace under pressure, had passed on much of her calm demeanor to Charlotte. The young princess had absorbed not just her mother's poise, but also her ability to navigate challenging situations with quiet strength. It was during this period that Charlotte's watchfulness seemed to deepen. Meghan and Harry's occasional visits to the UK continued to highlight the fractures within the family. These moments, though brief, were significant. During one such gathering, Charlotte's attentiveness drew the attention of those around her. Meghan's interactions with Kate appeared cordial on the surface, but Charlotte's unyielding gaze suggested she sensed something more beneath the polished smiles. For Charlotte, these moments were not just about protecting her mother, but also understanding the dynamics at play. Her ability to observe and intuit the emotions of those around her became an unspoken asset. It was not unusual for her to place herself physically between her mother and others during conversations that grew tense, a gesture so instinctive that it often went unnoticed by those directly involved. Yet to those who observed her closely, it was a clear sign of her emerging role within the family. Charlotte's intuitive nature extended beyond her immediate family. During interactions with staff and other members of the royal household, she displayed a kindness and attentiveness that endeared her to those who worked behind the scenes. These qualities, coupled with her growing sense of responsibility, positioned her as a natural bridge between generations. While her older brother George was being groomed for the throne, Charlotte carved out a role of her own, one of quiet observation and emotional intelligence. As spring turned to summer, the royal family continued to adjust to life under King Charles's reign. The pressure on William and Kate as the next in line to the throne grew more pronounced, and their children increasingly found themselves in the public eye. Charlotte, in particular, seemed to thrive in this environment. Whether attending charity events or joining her family at official engagements, she carried herself with an ease that belied the challenges of growing up under constant scrutiny. By now, Charlotte's bond with her father had also grown stronger. William, recognizing his daughter's unique qualities, often took time to encourage her burgeoning confidence. Their moments together, though private, were described by those close to the family as deeply impactful. Charlotte's ability to bring a sense of calm to even the most chaotic situations did not go unnoticed by her parents. It was becoming clear that she was not just a young princess, but a figure who, in her own way, was helping to shape the family's path forward. As the family prepared for the next chapter, Charlotte's role continued to evolve. Her quiet strength and intuitive nature hinted at a future where she would play a significant part in the monarchy's adaptation to modern times. For now, she remained a watchful presence, her actions speaking volumes even when her words were few. The early months of 2023 brought a sense of renewal to the royal family, yet the underlying tensions that had shaped recent years remained. Public appearances gave the impression of unity, but behind closed doors, unresolved conflicts lingered. For Princess Charlotte, these moments were increasingly becoming opportunities to showcase her perceptiveness. Her ability to observe and interpret the emotions of those around her had reached new heights, and her protective instincts toward her mother were more evident than ever. It was during a quiet family gathering at Windsor Castle that the defining moment occurred. These gatherings, meant to offer respite from the public eye, had increasingly become arenas for private discussions about the family's future. On this particular day, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken tension. Meghan and Harry had joined the gathering, their presence adding a layer of complexity to an already delicate situation. While conversations started amicably, it didn't take long for subtle disagreements to surface. Charlotte, now 9, was seated near her parents, her watchful eyes taking in the room's energy. The interaction between Meghan and Kate was particularly charged. Although their words were polite, their body language told a different story. Meghan's tone, while measured, carried an edge, and Kate's composed demeanor showed signs of strain. Charlotte, sensitive to her mother's discomfort, began to shift in her seat, her expression a mixture of concern and determination. As the conversation progressed, Meghan dismissed a comment from Kate, her tone sharp enough to draw a slight pause in the room. Charlotte's reaction was immediate. She stood from her seat and quietly moved closer to her mother, a small but instinctive act that did not go unnoticed. Meghan's clipped responses and Kate's brief glance toward William only added to the tension. The air in the room grew heavier, the kind of silence that speaks louder than words. Then it happened. Meghan made an offhand remark that seemed to strike a nerve. Kate's expression faltered for a split second, an almost imperceptible crack in her usual poise. Charlotte, standing nearby, noticed instantly. Her young face hardened with resolve as she stepped forward, her voice clear and deliberate. "She shouldn't do that. I tried to warn her." The room fell silent. For a moment, no one spoke, the weight of Charlotte's words hanging in the air. All eyes turned to the young princess, whose composure was striking in the face of the sudden attention. Meghan's expression shifted, a flicker of unease crossing her face before she regained her composure with a forced smile. But the impact of Charlotte's words was undeniable. For someone so young to make such a bold statement was unexpected, and it left even the senior royals momentarily stunned. Kate instinctively reached for her daughter's hand, offering quiet reassurance. William, standing nearby, exchanged a glance with his wife, his expression a mixture of surprise and concern. For a father who understood the gravity of such moments, William knew this was more than just a child speaking out. It was a reflection of the tensions that had been simmering for years. Meghan, visibly unsettled, shifted in her seat. While she maintained an outward calm, those who knew her well could see the subtle signs of discomfort. Her smile tightened and her gaze flicked briefly toward Harry, who appeared torn between loyalty to his wife and his family. Harry's attempts to mediate the situation were gentle but ineffective, his words drowned out by the unspoken emotions in the room. The senior members of the family, including King Charles and Queen Camilla, maintained their characteristic restraint. Charles, however, subtly pulled William aside for a quiet word, their hushed conversation hinting at the broader implications of the incident. For the monarchy, moments like these weren't just personal. They carried the potential to shape public perception and the future of the family's unity. As the gathering continued, the atmosphere remained tense. Kate and William took Charlotte aside for a private moment, their conversation with her hushed but earnest. Meghan, meanwhile, kept a measured distance, her interactions with the family noticeably more restrained. Insiders later revealed that she privately expressed frustration over the incident, interpreting Charlotte's warning as an orchestrated move by Kate and William rather than the genuine concern of a child. Charlotte's words, however, were not easily dismissed. Those present at the gathering later described the moment as a turning point, a flash of clarity amidst years of tension. For Kate, it was a poignant reminder of the bond she shared with her daughter, a relationship rooted in trust and mutual support. For William, it was a moment of realization that his children, especially Charlotte, were growing up in an environment shaped by complexities far beyond their years. In the hours following the gathering, the family worked to restore a sense of normalcy. William and Kate focused on reassuring Charlotte, emphasizing the importance of understanding and kindness even in challenging moments. Harry and Meghan, on the other hand, left the gathering earlier than expected, their departure quiet but telling. The incident was not openly discussed, but its impact lingered in the minds of everyone present. For Charlotte, the moment was a culmination of years of quietly observing and internalizing the dynamics of her family. Her words, though simple, carried weight because they came from a place of instinct and emotional intelligence. It was not an act of defiance, but an expression of her innate protectiveness, a quality that had been evident in her interactions with her mother and siblings for years. As the family reflected on the day's events, one thing was clear. Charlotte's role within the royal fold was evolving. She was no longer just a young princess attending public events. She was emerging as a figure of quiet strength, someone who could navigate the complexities of her family's relationships with remarkable poise. Her final warning had shocked everyone, but it had also underscored her unique place in a family bound by tradition, yet shaped by the challenges of modern life. In the days following the Windsor gathering, the royal family found themselves reflecting on more than just Charlotte's unexpected statement. Her words had struck a chord that resonated beyond the immediate tension. While the family often operated under the unspoken rule of maintaining decorum at all costs, Charlotte's instinctive honesty had unveiled a deeper truth. Some wounds within the monarchy could no longer be ignored. For Kate and William, the incident underscored the unique challenges of raising their children within such a public and pressurized environment. They had always sought to balance their royal responsibilities with providing a sense of normalcy for George, Charlotte, and Louis. Yet moments like this served as a stark reminder that even their best efforts couldn't fully shield their children from the realities of royal life. Charlotte's intuition and protectiveness, while remarkable, also reflected the weight of what she had already witnessed in her young life. Behind closed doors, discussions among the senior royals grew more pointed. King Charles, who had long championed the idea of a streamlined monarchy, saw the incident as a moment to reconsider the family's dynamics. While he admired Charlotte's strength, he recognized the delicate line between allowing younger royals to express themselves and maintaining the traditions of discretion that had long defined the institution. For Charles, the incident highlighted the evolving expectations placed on the royal family in an era where transparency and relatability mattered more than ever. Meghan and Harry's reaction to the event was equally telling. While outwardly dismissive of Charlotte's comment, Meghan reportedly expressed her frustration in private, viewing it as emblematic of the challenges she had faced within the family. To her, Charlotte's words felt less like the innocent concern of a child and more like a reflection of the narratives she believed were being shaped against her. Harry, caught between his wife's perspective and his loyalty to his family, once again found himself in a difficult position. His attempts to mediate, though well-intentioned, only seemed to underscore the distance between the Sussexes and the rest of the royals. For Charlotte, life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet those close to the family noted subtle changes in her demeanor. Her protectiveness over Kate remained a defining trait, but she seemed to carry herself with even greater confidence in the weeks that followed. Public appearances showed a young girl who, while maintaining her natural charm, had a quiet strength that set her apart. Her interactions with her siblings were often marked by moments of leadership, whether guiding Louis during a family outing or standing beside George during official events. As the family prepared for King Charles's coronation, the significance of Charlotte's emerging role within the monarchy became increasingly clear. While her older brother George was the heir, destined to one day assume the throne, Charlotte was carving out her own identity within the royal fold. Her position as the second child gave her a unique balance of influence and flexibility, a role that both William and Kate were keen to nurture. They recognized in Charlotte a potential to bridge the traditions of the monarchy with the evolving expectations of the modern public. The coronation itself became a defining moment for the royal family. The grandeur and pageantry of the event captured the world's attention, but it was the quieter moments that truly resonated. Charlotte, dressed impeccably for the occasion, carried herself with a composure that belied her age. Sitting alongside her siblings, she occasionally glanced toward her parents, her steady gaze suggesting a readiness to support them in any way she could. The events of the past year had shaped her in ways that were becoming increasingly visible. While her peers might have been preoccupied with childhood adventures, Charlotte was growing into a young royal whose actions carried significant weight. Her ability to read situations and respond with emotional intelligence had become one of her defining traits. Whether offering a reassuring hand to her younger brother or engaging warmly with members of the public during walkabouts, Charlotte's presence was consistently marked by grace and maturity. For the monarchy, Charlotte represented a new generation poised to navigate the complexities of a changing world. Her final warning during the Windsor gathering had not only revealed her protectiveness, but also signaled a shift in how the younger royals might approach their roles. Unlike previous generations who often adhered strictly to the never explain, never complain mantra, Charlotte's willingness to speak up, even in the face of tension, hinted at a more open and relatable approach to royal life. Public opinion of Charlotte began to reflect this shift. While much of the attention had traditionally focused on George as the future king, Charlotte was increasingly seen as a relatable and inspiring figure. Her bond with Kate, her sense of responsibility toward her siblings, and her intuitive understanding of the family's dynamics resonated with the public. Social media was abuzz with admiration for the young princess, with many highlighting her maturity and composure as qualities that set her apart. Within the family, Charlotte's role continued to evolve. William and Kate were keenly aware of the need to guide her carefully, balancing her growing responsibilities with the freedom to explore her individuality. They encouraged her interests, from sports to art, ensuring that her life retained a sense of normalcy despite her public role. At the same time, they recognized the unique influence she could wield as part of the royal family. As the year progressed, moments of tension within the family persisted, but the lessons from the Windsor gathering seemed to have left their mark. Discussions became more open, and efforts to bridge the divides grew more intentional. Charlotte's instinctive honesty and emotional intelligence had, in their own way, set a precedent for addressing challenges within the family. While the path forward was far from straightforward, the foundations of trust and understanding were being quietly rebuilt. For Charlotte, the future remained unwritten, but the events of these formative years had already established her as a figure of quiet strength and integrity within the royal family. Her final warning, while simple in its delivery, carried a depth of meaning that continued to resonate. It was a reminder that even the youngest voices could have a profound impact on the course of history. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.